Hard Hat's all about showing up to play hard, doing what it takes to win.
If you want to cement legacy, win another.
He's your third center.
You don't want to puff him up too much, but it's hard not to.
This is maybe the most I've ever agreed with you.
What's going on, everybody?
Hey.
Damn it, Amit.
That was something.
Oh,
That's one description
boy.
of it. Something is one thing to call
I
it.
want to say, Andrew, I love having you in my corner for once, my man. I love it.
Look at that.
No
Some
way
Zannis
Zannis is
love.
working tonight. Load management.
I had some doubts too.
John, I believed in you, John.
If Jimmy were on, I was gonna skip this one. I'm not gonna lie.
Jimmy could not bear this one.
But Jimmy couldn't do it, so I had to. I had no choice.
It's a playoff preview, John.
People were predicting this was going to be a Sherrod and Jimmy show.
Wow.
Yeah.
Why do I not show up?
We don't hide. We don't load manage. Bobby's always here.
Exactly.
Bobby's always here. Okay, let's go. 6-minute show. First 5 minutes about Jaylen Brown. Let's do it. I'm fucking pumped. I'm pumped.
Just get it.
Apology cam.
This is bad
I do have
karma for us wanting Jaylen out.
I have something to apologize for, but I'm not going to do it yet. Before we get into this, I don't know what we're going to talk about. Before we get into it, I got to figure out what we're going to talk about. But we are going to also tell you about our sponsor. Quick shout out to Prize Picks. Yep.
Can we just talk about Prize Picks all game? Can we just talk about Prize Picks all night?
I will. I had Shireman. I had the more on Shireman. I would have if I paid attention, because I thought he was getting 20 plus tonight. You know what bugs me about these games? You know what? My one grievance when you get the Stay Ready crew, too much Pritchard.
John, we're there. John, that is exactly what I was thinking.
Drives, I know what Pritchard can do. When I'm watching those guys, even in garbage time, Pritchard's too much Pritchard, dribbling and scoring and stat padding and doing the YMCA thing. I'd rather watch JD brick 8 threes, I just want to see the other guys play. I know what Pritchard can do. If I want the full, I don't even want Luke out there. I know what Luke can do. I want the full Stay Ready experience. And Pritchard is so ball dominant in these scenarios. So anyway, but that's not, we'll get into it. That's neither here nor there. Because I actually, there is a good thing with those guys playing as well. Pritchard, Hauser, and Cornette. We'll talk about that also. A silver lining to all of this, even though this was a pretty grisly performance. But the episode's brought to you by Prize Picks, largest daily fantasy sports platform in all of North America. Download the app today. Use code CLNS. Get 50 instantly when you play 5. That's code CLNS on Prize Picks. Download the app. 50 instantly when you play 5. Prize Picks, run your game. We also want to give a shout out to our friends over at Game Time. And again, getting into the playoffs, you're going to need Game Time. They're your pal. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Once again, download that Game Time app, create an account, code CLNS, $20 off your first purchase. What time is it? Game time. So as we're looking at this game, look, we've got some playoff preview applications as well, but I'll tell you, coming into this game, this was kind of my thought. I was super duper happy not having to do the Jaylen thing again tonight and getting to watch the Stay Ready crew for 48 minutes. So refreshing. Looking for a 30-piece for Shireman. This is what I'm going to apologize for. This was not fun at all. This wasn't as fun as I hoped it would be. I love these Stay Ready crew games. This was look, Orlando played real players. I mean, what do you expect here? And Orlando wasn't that impressive, all things considered, but this was even Noah's going to have a hard time putting a good.
She's going to be heartbroken. You had to play your third center.
I wanted JD to get
wing, fifth.
I wanted JD to get a bucket for Noah so badly because I don't want to look at her glum face on here coming on when I asked the JD Davison question, and so I'm not even going to talk about it.
I don't think she's coming on. I think she's going to skip this one.
Really? Out of mourning?
That's disappointing, Bobby. That'd
Meaning
be very disappointing.
Just because it was bad?
Yeah, I think this one's going to be too much for her to address.
Oh,
Okay.
I just might
Really?
call Noah just to make sure she's coming on.
Can you make
She's
sure,
probably
Sherrod? Because I haven't heard. I haven't gotten
She's
confirmation.
gonna show up now because she listens before she comes on. So she's definitely gonna show up now. Now we've talked about it. She'll be here.
Where do you start? If there was one performance in this game that made you say, "Ooh, there's something that could develop into something. There's some hope for next year with some of these development guys." There was not.
There was nothing like that. I mean, Shireman has done what we've seen him do this before. So it wasn't as if this was some like, wow, I didn't know that Baylor.
He was okay.
Yeah,
yeah. Look,
he was okay, but he didn't suck and he wasn't great. He just kind of pretty much played the way you think Baylor would play if he got like this kind of minutes.
John made a good point off the top. You didn't see him do anything that we hadn't seen him do previously in terms of his workload, in terms of taking on more responsibility. They would run some funky sets in this game and mostly just trying to get guys off ball through Cornet and some other stuff, a lot of handoffs. It wasn't really complex what they were throwing out there, but it was just shocking, watching this, John. We're so used to watching Tatum and Brown and all these guys and the advantages that they have Porzingis and the way that they're able to move the ball off of that. No one in this game could create an advantage. And no one on the ball could force the defense to bend or collapse or anything. And obviously it's a mixed bag of personnel you have out here, but it was pretty shocking to watch given what we usually watch night in and night out.
But even when there were opportunities, though, they didn't take advantage of it. And I don't want to beat up JD any more than he's probably beating himself up. But there were so many opportunities where he could have done something very basketball 101-ish to get a bucket or at least get a clean shot off. And he finds a way to not do it. I don't get him. Because physically speaking, he looks like a guy that can do some things in this league. He's doing it in the G League. There seems to be some type of disconnect between the things that he does at the G League and the things that he should try to do when he gets minutes in the NBA.
Yeah, I can't make good sense of it. I mean, he's obviously getting left open. He's obviously being backed off. I've talked a lot about that, how there's just not a real urgency to guard him on the perimeter. But you didn't see the penetration from him either. We're already down to Davison, John.
I zoned out. We're down to Davison. Okay, sorry.
Fax my dog.
I didn't want to fax my dog. I just want to tell you openly and honestly, I'm not listening right now. But I plan on listening.
Somehow, some way, Davison ended a +1.
Well, let me give a couple of thoughts. Okay, starting with the Shireman thing. I don't know what you were looking for, Bobby. You're looking in these games to see who, like, for the not the 7 through 10 guys. We're not talking about Cornet, Pritchard, and Hauser, though there is something to be learned from watching them play as well. I'll get to that in a second. Everybody outside of those guys, you're just trying to see which of these guys, when playing against actual NBA competition, doesn't look like an absolute spaz, doesn't belong sort of guy. And so you can really see it. And look, I know everyone's going to say he's so young and blah, blah, blah. And I get it. Like, you'll give a little leeway to some guys, but like, I'll say this now because I can't say it to Noah because I just don't want to break her heart. But Davison's so clearly not one of those guys that looks comfortable around actual NBA competition. He looks
Walsh.
And Walsh is the other. They look so overwhelmed. And even Peterson looks fine, and Peterson even Kata's a sloppy mess. We're talking about guys who've kind of ridden the main train, like been up there and done their thing. You can clearly see who can hang and not embarrass themselves and who doesn't look like they belong. We know Baylor is older. Obviously, he's a rookie, but he's an older person than these guys. So again, people will give Walsh and Davison the benefit of the doubt, but they look so overwhelmed out there. It doesn't bode well necessarily for their futures, especially Davison already in his third year. And, Walsh, I think a lot of people were like, maybe he can start to get those Brissett minutes this year. And he really couldn't,
Yeah.
And so he's not there yet. I'm not saying he won't be, but at this moment, they both look so far away. So when I'm looking at Baylor, I'm not like, oh, he was awesome, but he just continues to flash and look ready. He's going to make mistakes. He doesn't hit everything, but he hit a couple of threes. He go into the basket creatively with those scoop finishes were really impressive. He's, hitting the floor. He's just doing all of these things. He looks like a basketball player. What level he's going to rise to? Nobody knows, but he plays and looks like an actual NBA player. And that's the most important thing, because we haven't been able to say that about any rookie for a while.
Right. And
yeah.
Go ahead, Bobby.
I was gonna say, just in response to what you said there, John, I was looking for a flash, like in an opportunity like this, with more minutes, with more opportunity. You want to see him do more, have a greater workload. I know he took 14 shots. I know there's more minutes overall here, but I just didn't see him super involved in terms of like pick and roll creation and some of the things you might be able to see him do into a year two situation if he's able to garner that kind of role here.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about Baylor, above everything else, he doesn't look like the moment is too big for him, and the moment was just simply walking out there playing basketball. There should have been no other expectation other than just playing the game of basketball. And he looks like he looks totally comfortable doing that. And when you look at some of the other guys on the floor, it's just not there. Like Baylor is never going to be, I think, a average or above average shot creator of his own. He's going to need someone to help him with that. And he just didn't get that. And so there are parts of his game that I think in time will unlock themselves, because he'll be playing with better players and he'll himself become a better player. But he did exactly what I thought, considering where he's at now and his growth curve, did exactly what he's supposed to do.
Yeah. So it looks fine. It looks like, again, there's no
there's no disappointment here. You
don't need to exaggerate. We don't need to play is he going to get playoff minutes? I mean, maybe, depending on what happens with Brown, but even then unlikely. But that's not. We're not there yet. It's all a year two. It's all a year two projection. You can project ahead and say, especially if there's going to have to be some uncomfortable conversations and some movement in the offseason, and you have to shed right now someone who's part of your core, or whether, and that doesn't necessarily mean a starter, whether it's a Hauser or whomever. A lot of people said, oh, it's a Hauser replacement. Their skill sets are different. They're just both white and like to shoot a little bit, but they're totally different ball players. So the comparisons aren't apt in terms of who they are and what they do for the team, but just simply the roster spot might go to a guy like Shireman, because Hauser might not be able to be kept around. And that, I think you're okay. I think you can envision him in the 7 through 10 role next year and it not be a huge leap or a huge drop. What happens? You look at a team like Denver, right? They start to shed those role players, and 2 years later, less than 2 years removed from a championship, they fire their coach and it's a total friggin' mutiny. And they couldn't get by losing guys like Brown or KCP, who were those 6 through 8 sort of players on their teams. You feel okay that if you had to slide Shireman into that slot, that's good. And you needed that, Bobby. We kept talking about, like, you got to get some rookies in there to develop and make them be useful. If not stars, you can't keep paying $15 million for bench players. You need a couple guys who just make a couple of, rub a couple nickels together and bring them here on these rookie deals or these cheaper deals. And so that's the benefit there.
Yeah, no, and I love watching him. The passing flashes so often and so consistently that you do start to think about him being a guy who plays with the ball in his hand. So maybe he slides into a backcourt role. I know that's how Fisher described it when he was talking about them potentially moving on from Holiday, the belief that Shireman can slide into the backcourt minutes and play alongside Pritchard and White at that point. It's pretty early to project something like that, especially when you think of the defensive drop-off, even from Pritchard to Shireman, with all the growth Pritchard's made on that end of the floor. So he's off to a great start, and that's where I'll leave it there. The handful of games we've seen from him at this point make you think that he can play in this league. And we didn't have that before he started receiving these consistent minutes more recently here after the G League stint he had to start the year. So what he's done to this point is definitely a win, even if you did expect him to have a little bit more of an impact year one, given his age and all of that. So I feel good about this. And I will throw in the caveat, John. for him and everybody else in this game, just how good the defense he was going up against was. And you saw it throughout this game. Those guys were attached. There was never any separation. They threw out some zones that completely demolished the Celtics offense. And beyond all the shocking stuff I talked about earlier, watching this team, the one we watched tonight compared to the usual Celtics team we watch, they couldn't even get threes off. I mean, they were trailing in 3-point attempts all game. They hit 7 in this game. I know they got up to 40 in the end, but they were hovering around like 28, 29, 30 for a little while there. So this was a pretty intense Magic defensive effort. They obviously needed this game and to lock down their standing position there. And that's, I guess, the one thing you can take away from this game, projecting toward a potential series between the two teams, is just how much of a slog it's going to be. And maybe, obviously, the starters have a chance to separate themselves talent-wise more than what we saw tonight. But that Magic team, you said it, Sherrod, they can defend. They grind the pace down to a halt.
But you know what, Bobby? They can't score. I mean, think about the guys that the Celtics didn't have in this game from the defensive side of things, and they still could not break 100 against this Celtics team. I mean, basically, they could not score 100 points against the extended version of the main Celtics. And that just should never happen. I mean, how do you play it at home and not score 100 against a team that is as defensively challenged as the Celtics were? When you look at the guys that were playing relative to the guys that normally play, I don't understand why it's hard for me to imagine how you can be this bad offensively. Where buckets are that hard to come by.
Yeah, so it's a potential, and this is certainly something we'll talk about. It's a potential first round matchup with the Magic in at the 7 spot right now. And that's kind of what we're, they win, and that's who you got. That's how it works. So should they
should
lose
be
that
locked at 7 now? As far as
and should they lose that 7-8 game? It doesn't matter who's locked at 7 and who's locked at 8, though, Bobby. It just matters who wins, really. So it doesn't matter whether they're locked in or not. You're playing the 7-8 winner. So, it's a coin flip between, them right now. And you're not sure because it's actually pretty tight. It's still pretty open in who's going to slide into that 8 because Atlanta, Chicago, and Miami are a game apart. Atlanta's got the inside track right now, 37-42, and the Bulls and the Heat. So you really still, I know you can talk about your probabilities. You're assuming the 7 seed with home court wins their game. So Orlando looks like the favorite.
They destroyed the Hawks yesterday. They played them yesterday.
All three of those teams are on the table for the Celtics first round. So it's not, worth full scale preview. But if we did play this, a bit of a slog, but I think everybody comes to the same conclusion, right? There's no way Orlando can score enough to win multiple games in a series against a team like the Celtics. It's just impossible. It'll be annoying, but this is a rest your second best player sort of series.
What are we, 18 minutes in?
I haven't said his name. I didn't say his name.
Who's your second best player?
I don't know. I just said that. So I said that so
right?
People.
Here you go.
I said that so people would know what I was talking about. I don't think he's the second best player. But anyway, that being said, you're right. It's a snoozer. This
game was so bad.
No, it's a good point, Sherrod. Even the Magic didn't do anything tonight that made you go, wow, that was impressive, or plays that stood out. Kata had his dunk in this one. That was cool. There were definitely some Shireman passes that flashed. I thought Miles Norris, if we're really going to go deep down the bench, came in at the very end and showed some stuff there. But as far as highlights, as far as flashy moments, and even just the pace and flow of this game, a lot of foul calls, replays, all of that. It just grinded it to a halt. And that's obviously what the Magic want to do here. But you're right, John. They don't shoot threes. You see throughout the flow of this game that they're just passing them up. They dribble inside, try to just smash into you and score inside the paint area. They play big. Banchero really wasn't impressive in this game, even though he came in scorching hot.
They shot the threes. The threes are what separated them. When they started to fall there is when they built that lead up to 20 points. They shot 45 threes tonight. That's a ton for them. So That's a lot. I just looked at the Celtics numbers. 7 for 40. My goodness gracious.
It was so weird to watch.
Yeah, so good.
Painful.
Yeah. That's really good stuff. It was tough. You guys talk. I have to mess. Oh my God. Are you still there?
Yeah, I am. Is Bobby free?
My headphones just went berserk on me. So hold on 1 second while I adjust that. You guys go.
All right.
So I'm gonna bounce to Pritchard here, Sherrod, because as John mentioned, you're looking at Pritchard, you're looking at Hauser, you're looking at Cornette, those guys who are actually gonna play for you in the playoffs here. And do you take a ton away from their performances tonight? None of them were great. I thought Cornette was okay. Pritchard had the ball a ton, and as John mentioned, was dribbling the air out of the ball for quite a bit of this game.
Yeah.
Well, can I ask it? Can I frame the question a certain way? Because this
Yeah.
is what I did want to ask this question for you guys. I think there is something to be gained. We talked about last game how
I was going there, yeah.
You saw the 7 through 10 guys against the Knicks, and it was rough sailing. It's good to get them against starters and playing against that type of competition to see how they can do, because it's hard. That's a closer representation of what playoffs will be like, playing against a tight rotation or other team starters, and whether you can compete. So it's kind of 2 nights in a row you're seeing them thrust into a more playoff-ish environment in terms of the level of competition and not intensity tonight, intensity last night, but level of competition tonight.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and it's definitely something that, because of the way this team is constructed, you don't get a lot of opportunities for those guys to get out there and actually be in situations, real game-like situations where there's clear growth opportunities for them. And this was definitely another opportunity for them to do that. But man, if you're Joe Mazzulla, you are absolutely praying that you don't have to go too deep into the damn bench. My goodness. You just don't want. They're just guys that aren't ready. I mean, it's that simple. I mean, I think some guys will get better in time, but you got a lot of guys that we saw tonight that I just don't think are going to get much better, even with experience. Just don't see it happening.
Yeah, and for Pritchard specifically, I think we're torn between 2 things, right? Noah's argument, which I think is a good one, that when he's less involved, when there's more starters available, he's just going to shoot less, and you're going to get less from him because of that. I think the numbers bear that out. He's still efficient when you look back at the last X number of games over the last month or 2 here. But you just look at some of the performances against some of the tougher teams. The 8 against the Knicks. He had 7 against Phoenix, a handful of weeks ago, 5 against Memphis. So there's been a handful more flop scoring performances, 3 of 10 against Oklahoma City to go back to that game. Even 1 of 5 against the Lakers in that one. You're just riding those highs and lows a little bit more recently here to me. And the highs are massive, right? He had a 43 at one point there that, broke the record alongside White. There's just a little bit more of an inconsistency creeping back in there that does make me wonder, John, come playoff time, come situations where they're going to key in on him a little bit more against a certain type of opponent that's bigger, a little more physical around the rim, packs the paint like the Magic do here. Are you just going to see diminished returns from him compared to the bar that he put in the sky to start the year? Like, I still think you're going to get an effective Pritchard, a Pritchard who's a threat. And that's as important as anything, that he's just drawing the defense out to the perimeter when he's out there.
Yeah.
But he can see 20, 25 points often, like we did at the start of this year.
No, you're not. I mean, you're not. But it's not like it just is what it is. And I do think people have to get used to that. It's always been an issue with Pritchard. The size, people are going to hunt him in mismatches, trying to be able to keep up with the bigger, more physical guards and how he's going to hold up defensively. And I think, to his credit, he has improved year over year, and he's earning his minutes, right? Last year, he made a big jump, from low teens to 20-something minutes a game during the regular season, averaged around 10 points and was a consistent contributor. But then you get into the postseason, and it just plummeted. I mean, it plummeted. He was down to, down to 18 minutes a game, 6 points. He just wasn't. It was just less. It was about 70-80% in terms of the contribution and the amount of time. This year, he's up to 28 minutes and 14 points a game. If you're getting 75% of that, if it's to scale, that's still okay. If you're getting 10 points a game out of Pritchard
as
in the
long
playoffs,
as he's efficient.
Yeah, if he's efficient. But, if he's having these, he can't get his shot off. He goes out, he's 0 for 5. He's searching for it and he's getting beat up a little bit. Yeah, you're always going to see that. You're going to get a temperature. You're going to take that temperature for the game early and see how it's playing out. That first bench stint somehow oftentimes kind of determines what goes on from there and how tight that rotation is going to be. And you see that a lot of times where you'll get your full run in the first, and then that second, it's a really quick trigger if they don't like the way that it's going. So you might not get your full 6 minutes or 7 minutes or come back in the fourth for a couple. You see the starters just basically staying in the entire fourth quarter, and you're just not going to find moments where Pritchard's going in unless he's got it going in that game or again, the right sort of matchup. I'm more bullish about Kornet earning and keeping his minutes.
Wow.
Only because I do think that I think, Joe, in the absence of, a fully healthy lineup, the way they want to play it, and one of your better players not being as effective and possibly on a minutes restriction, we're not entirely sure what's going to happen there. I think Joe is going to opt for way more double big lineups. In fact, a lot of double big lineups that include Horford and Kornet together. Then he's going to go 3 guard lineups with White, Holiday, and Pritchard. I just don't see that happening as much in the postseason. So I think Kornet's minutes are more assured, also because of how well he works with your best player. And how important that pick and roll game is there.
And their defensive numbers have been great with the double
whereas
bigs
Pritchard is a legit just kind of second unit spark plug, jumping in there. We do have some Peyton Pritchard from the locker room right now, so we're going to put that up and listen to what PP, the Boston Pea Party, had to say about tonight's performance in Orlando.
We didn't really hit many good luck from threes, which obviously hurts, especially in the modern NBA. You just gotta hit threes to really win games, and we got I thought good shots, but just really short tonight.
Is that a product of, do you think, late arrival last night?
Obviously, like sleep plays a part in fatigue. You get in at like 4:30, so it's not easy, but it's also not an excuse. So you got to find ways to win, and so that's the disappointing part of it. But you learn from it, you grow from it, and you move on.
You've been in these situations before. I mean, you now are part of the rotation, but for the guys who aren't usually, how much pressure do you have to try to not put too much pressure on yourself in these situations?
Try not to put pressure at all. You allow your work to show and ready for the moment. I thought some guys did a really good job tonight. We'll have another 2 good opportunities coming up, so it's really good for them.
Who stood out to you?
I thought our bigs played really well in the peak times. Like Luke and Nemi did a great job. Miles came in and he had some good energy, hit 2 threes. Overall everybody had good energy. Now it's, like I said, tough. Sometimes you have lackadaisical moments, and I think that just comes from
lackadaisical.
Lackadaisical.
You take a certain level of responsibility in these kinds of games, like seeing that everybody's gonna be out, like as someone who is usually in the rotation.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely, like you said, a leadership jump. So, you got to kind of lead the group, make sure everybody's involved, make sure everybody's playing the right way. So maybe I didn't do the best job of that tonight. But there are certain times I let the game kind of get out of control and like they went on runs when you need a bucket or you need to stop and stuff like that. So some of those is on me for sure.
And with these games, the standings are solidified, but do you feel like it's good learning opportunities for you as far as moving?
100%. I definitely look at this as a learning opportunity because I'm always trying to grow and always looking to take the next step and stuff like that. So these moments is crucial. You learn how to affect the game in a different position, and like I said, you just learn from it, and grow, and keep moving.
What do you do over the next 10 days? How do you start practicing to get rest, like you said, these guys are tired. What do you do over the next stretch to make sure you're ready for game one?
Well, I feel like, the first beginning of the week, you're definitely focused on recovery. You're getting your bodies right and stuff like that. And then you'll practice, you start game planning. Obviously, we'll have some live stuff, get some live reps and stuff, and be ready for that opening playoff series. But most importantly, it's just getting your bodies fully recovered. I mean, it's been a long season. We didn't have much of an off season, so anytime you take little breaks, you got to take them and fully recover.
Get your body right and take little breaks when you can get them. Great advice from Peyton Pritchard. I love that. Smart. Good thinking. Rest.
The thing about Peyton, as we were talking earlier, I mean, for him, he's got to find that sweet spot between being a potential threat and being productive. Because he can't be in one corner and not the other. He's really got to balance those out because they're going to need that from him. This is why he's been one of the top, if not the best, sixth man in the league this year. His ability to both deliver and score and do those things, but also be out there and open up things for Tatum and Brown and others, who because of his ability to score. So he's got to balance those two things out. And John, your point earlier about Luke, this is the thing about Luke. He's doing more than just setting screens. That's it. I mean, the reason the reason why we were so hard on Luke is because all he did out there was set screens. And it's
Did you guys see him hit 2 mid-rangers in this one?
First of all, the fall away jumper was nice, little flat, but beautiful. Drained it. But that was like Larry Bird against Portland. Like, I'm just gonna try. I'm gonna just try this one. I'm gonna try this one lefty just because I feel like it. There was no earthly reason for him to shot put that free throw jumper with his left hand, but he did. I think he was just goofing around.
I saw him working on that MSG yesterday.
That was awesome.
We've gotten John saying he's more confident in Pritchard. I mean, than Cornette and more confident.
You can't even say it, Bobby. You can't even get it out.
I'm too excited that I can't even get it out. And we got a Larry Bird comparison for Cornette.
There it is. Boy. Well, I mean, if Tommy Heinsohn can call Greg Steamsma the next freaking Bill Russell, then I can certainly. I feel like I'm not.
Steamer.
I'm not overstepping with that one.
I saw him hit one of those earlier in the year too. For all the people that want to see Luke shoot, those were impressive.
We're going to talk a little more about all of this, and yes, we're going to talk about he who must not be named and he who you always want me to talk about, but now don't want me to talk about anymore, because it was curious what happened prior to the game. I think a good decision, not necessarily because of health, but because of perception. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But first off, we do want to tell you about our good friends over at Prize Picks. Get in on the action now. Best place to get real money sports action. Over 10 million members, billions of dollars in awarded winnings. Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. Pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot up to win 1,000 times your cash. Special offers like free squares, Taco Tuesday, Freaky Friday are available. You just have to check out the app and see what's available to you. More or less, as we said, 2 or more players. You can cross sports. The app is super easy to use. It's very intuitive, ton of fun. And again, we're heading into the playoffs here, basketball playoffs. You've got hockey playoffs. Baseball is underway. A lot of fun stuff to get in on the action. So check it out. Download that app today, and you see it right there. Play 5, get 50 into your account instantly. You don't have to win. New users, once again, download it. That code CLNS, you see it on the screen. Play 5, get 50 instantly in your account when you use the code CLNS. Prize Picks, run your game. Getting back to it, and look, I do want to mention it because it was interesting. Everything was bad. Last night I predicted every single person would sit except for Jaylen. Then the first injury report comes out. And what happens? Everyone is on it. Not on it like questionable, like they were for the Knicks game. Holiday, Horford, Porzingis, Tatum, and White out. Brown, questionable. And oh my goodness, here we go again. Everyone thought, right, Bobby? We were certain. Oh my God, he's going to play. What do we, and here we go. And the conversation would start, and then we have to do this dumb shit on the show again. And then it becomes harder and harder and harder to justify that anything is going on here other than Jaylen's quest for 65. We still don't know what'll happen. I'll feel a lot better if he takes the entire weekend off, because at least it'll tell you he was honest, right? I was working my way through some stuff and then I pulled up. But it made no sense why he was questionable and not out today if the plan was to rest all along. So I don't quite understand that. What do you think happened there? Like, he was there, he was warming up, he was shooting around, he was shooting prior to the game. Everybody else is in street clothes. He went through the motions as if he was going to play today, but ended up not playing in the end.
Maybe just wanted to try and see how it felt. Go
like,
through
do you
the
think he
warm-up.
didn't feel up to it? That you think somebody said, dude, don't? Did he go through his motions just to be into the routine of like doing what you would do to play and then didn't play? Because again, he looked like he was going to play up until they announced that he wasn't. He went through the whole routine.
Yeah, and that's what makes me think he got through it and was like, this doesn't feel right. Pain probably, catching up to him. I think too, he probably got a strong recommendation, especially with the overnight trip.
I wonder.
think they got in at 3:30. That this might be a little riskier than you probably want to roll with here. And they keep talking about how it's a conversation. There's a back and forth there. It does.
Hold on. I forgot. I gotta warn people right now. We are speculating why he was questionable and didn't play.
I like that.
Straight out speculation. 1,000%. We are not observing anything here. He didn't play. We are speculating why he was questionable and went through the motions and then didn't play. Because it could have been physical.
I know what you're thinking, John.
Could have been somebody said, "Let's not do this, man." I also wonder,
who
all the
said
way
it?
Brad, maybe Bill Chisholm.
Bill. Hey,
Bill, I spent a lot of money on you, man. Any way you could take care of yourself a little bit?
Turns out.
No, I mean, look, the Porzingis stuff was really telling last night, right? That's the first time we had it. And I forgot, Bailey, if you can cue up that Porzingis stuff, we can play it back because it was interesting. That's the first time. That was a tipping point moment, I think, for a lot of people's perception on this, because we're going along with the story of, there's two sides. Brown saying he's working through some stuff and trying to get used to playing with it. Joe kind of saying that, but he looked less confident about the way he said it last night. He was kind of hemming and hawing, like, I don't know, we got what we wanted to do. Yada, yada, yada. And then Porzingis was like, shit, man, I wish he wouldn't play. Like, I don't know what he's doing out there. And that was really interesting.
And I'm wondering,
maybe it's not, maybe Jaylen should not play. Yeah.
I think, John, that may very well be where this is coming from, where Porzingis or some other guy said, Jaylen, dude, you don't need to be out here. This don't run the risk of making this, not better by just playing in the game. Shit, hang out with all of us. We're not playing. You might as well be part of the crew too, and just kick back and relax and watch the young fellas play. I wonder if peer pressure may have been part of this as well, because they know they're going to need Jaylen, and Jaylen, I think, knows that. But sometimes,
this was an incomprehensible spot for him to play in. I know you thought kind of, John, as early as yesterday, and everyone who thought 65 games was the target thought that maybe just bang those out and then you said on Sunday. To me, and we'll see if he still goes through the motions this weekend now that he has a couple of days off here. I couldn't imagine a world where, especially when, like you said, Sherrod, all the other guys are sitting. You got in at 3:30. You couldn't play more than 21 minutes yesterday, and you didn't look good doing it. When we saw the questionable pop up, it was like alarms left and right. Like, what is going on here?
What are you doing?
Are you about to do this?
It was like, no way.
He was about to go out there with JD and
I
Peterson.
did. I thought it was for sure. If Brown was out there with those guys, this would have been like, dude, it was so bizarre. Everyone else is out and Brown was questionable. It did not make sense at all. It didn't. I'm glad he didn't play.
So here we go.
Ridiculous. Yeah. But
2 games left. Are we going to see him again?
I'm now predicting, speculating, if you will, that this was it. This was the play. It had to go this way, right? Playing in the
You
last
think-
two
so
would be
That's an interesting thought.
would
That
be
maybe they got
egregious.
to the game and said, "All right, let's call it a year."
Let's call it a year. You know, because it's like we when we looked at it a few games back, I thought that he's going to have to play the back-to-back. And when he played 22 minutes against New York, I was like, and then one of the two versus Charlotte, and he'll sit the last one. But I'm pretty sure the Celtics don't want to play a single person a single minute in those last two games. I really don't think so, right? You know, like they didn't last year. So I don't know. Maybe they play a few minutes Friday. Maybe starters play the first half. I don't know exactly how you want to do it, but it seems silly. If he plays the final two, it's a problem.
You could maybe split it up.
I'm changing my take to think that this was it. Like we're gonna pull it here. And look, this story's never been about if he rested yesterday and today he's going to be fine for the playoffs. I think we've agreed he's probably past the point of no return. And so he's just going to be here. This was strictly based on perception, on how this was going to look. It was a bad look. If he played today with the main Red Claws, with the main Celtics, and then once against Charlotte, and no other starter played, it was a bad look. And then if he struggled in the playoffs, people would wonder, did he need to play all of those? It doesn't matter whether he could or couldn't, whether it affected him or not. There's no question. Look, I mean, you look at the chat, it's fairly split. A lot of people are shut up. He's fine. He's just working through it. And a lot of people are like,
a lot of people want to see him
and I think he's hurting himself. People want to generally see him sit. And if he looks bad, people will look back at this and wonder, right or wrong, should he not have played? Like, did he hurt himself by doing this? Did he have to push it? Was all NBA worth it? Was the 65 games worth it? So from a perception standpoint, I think Jaylen does himself a ton of favors here of looking at just because now he's going to go from, oh my God, he's just going for personal accolades to this poor guy's trying his best to tough it out right now and he's in a lot of pain. And that's what it's going to be. And it's better that that's the narrative instead of, oh, geez, he forced his way to play all the way through to the last game of the season just to make that stupid 65.
Let's hear this. Let's hear this Porzingis quote again, because this
we'll play that, and then I promised Noah we wouldn't do this tonight. And before she comes on, we have to finish this conversation. So this was KP yesterday, which I think was a little tipping point moment in how people viewed this.
Toughing it out through his knee injury and everything.
Yeah, he's a tough dude. He always preaches, his warrior mindset, and he lives by it, But to what extent we need that right now, maybe he needs to take care of it and make sure he's going to be ready for the most important moments. So I think we just have to encourage him to make sure
we have to encourage
him. Everything he needs to prepare, to get it healthy and to prepare for what's going to come. And I think he's a smart guy, so he will. He just shows his heart. But he wants to be out there even for games that maybe don't mean. This is PR
101. Well done.
This is one of the greatest quotes I've ever heard,
and we appreciate him for that.
Smart, intelligent. He's going to make the right decision.
There's so much in there.
You had him saying maybe it's not the smartest idea for him to be out there.
He's a smart guy.
We gotta make sure
we gotta encourage him to do the right thing.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, was there? Yeah.
He's a smart guy. He's not going to do anything stupid like go out there again.
So I do wonder, I mean, was there some kind of intervention? I have no idea. Here. We'll see. But we'll bring on Noah. No, so Noah, I'm afraid for a couple of reasons, Noah. Okay. I don't know what's going to be more upsetting. You got us?
We're
looking glitchy Wi-Fi.
Technical difficulties.
The Brockton Wi-Fi attack.
She's back.
I booted her. Well, Noah, when you think you're good, give a thumbs up. We'll bring you back on here.
I told you, John. I don't know if we're gonna see her tonight.
We are. She's here. She's ready.
She's ready.
She's mad as hell, though. Yeah. We'll get to Noah in just a second.
I don't know. It would be weird, John, if there was an intervention of some kind for him to be out there on the court warming up, right? Like there wasn't really a time where that would have happened. So I'm assuming that didn't happen, but I don't know what happened here, whether he warmed up and he didn't feel right, whether he got a strong indication from the medical staff that this wouldn't be a great idea, or if he just realized at this point, the odds aren't great. There's more upshot and rest. I've done what I needed to do.
Yeah,
And again, John, I'm not ruling out him playing in those final 2 yet. I have no idea what he's going to do.
But for him to have played tonight, there's so many. This is not going to turn out well scenarios had he played tonight. And I think at some point, whether it was an intervention, whether it was the medical staff, whether Jaylen came to that epiphany on his own, he realized I should not be out here with the main Celtics tonight.
Yeah.
No.
Maybe
he might have looked around. Basically, Joe Mazzulla went to him before the game. He's like, if you can name 3 of these 5 guys, you can play. And he looked around. He's like, I can't. I don't know. I don't know who 44 is. And that was it. He's out.
Baylor and
Is Springer's number already?
It's like David
over?
Ortiz. You know why David Ortiz has the nickname Poppy?
Yeah, that is a great story.
Because he didn't know anybody's name and he just called them Poppy, so they just started calling him Big Poppy. Anyway, bringing in Noah. Noah, I don't know what to do here because you and I were both excited about a Maine Celtics game, and getting to see the Stay Ready crew play for 48. And we said we wouldn't talk about Jaylen, and then you popped
what you asked for.
You popped up in the window just during the 5 minutes we were talking about. I swear,
I'm sure.
I swear, ask the chat. We were not. I wouldn't even say his name. Okay, I didn't.
We talked about Norris. We talked about Norris before we talked about.
We talked about everybody, Peterson, and sadly, early on in the show, because I wanted to get it done and over with before you popped on. We did talk about.
I don't know what you're gonna prefer, Noah.
And I was Bobby's like, I don't think Noah's coming on. She's not coming on after this. So I don't know what you want to talk about less. JD Davison's performance or Jaylen Brown, intrigue.
There's nothing wrong with talking about JD Davison or anybody else. There's nothing wrong with talking about Jaylen if it wasn't our 19th time having the same conversation.
It's a new conversation. It's very nuanced. This one's slightly different.
What's different about this one?
He sat out.
Why he was questionable in the first place and how the decision was that he sat out, but also the perception. My developing opinion, Noah, is that I think this is it. They're pulling the plug on the season. They got to him. Let's just call it, and they called it, and I don't think we see him again. That's my thought.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes, developing opinion. You think he plays the last 2?
I do, and I hope you're right, John. Mostly because I would really suffer through 2 more of these shows, but I really hope you're right. But I would be surprised if he was done for the season for the next 2 games.
Well,
but I don't know. Do you have any reason why you say that, or is it just a gut? Yeah, I guess the season is 2 games here, but
yeah. Well, we'll see
I
what
guess
happens.
It's just a matter of him getting through 2 more games, like the 15 minutes in each of those games. If you're this close,
spin the wheel. Dealer's choice. Noah. We did kind of go over a little bit of everything here. So what? You were at the game. What are your thoughts?
I don't think I took away too much. You hope that one of these games you see somebody kind of break through. This game has the making of a special moment for somebody, and it really wasn't for anybody, and that was kind of a bummer. Whether it could have been Baylor, could have been Sam, could have been Peyton. I didn't think anybody really had a great game, and obviously they're capable of it. Sam could have gotten hot tonight, but it kind of highlighted how difficult everybody's life is when you don't have any of these other players on the floor with you. Everybody was kind of at a disadvantage. Everybody was a little bit overexerted, and they weren't playing some bad team. The Magic have one of the better defenses in the league. I think they're a top 5 defense. And so it was tough to put out the type of offensive output that they had tonight. And they weren't hitting open shots, but also obviously they're already at a disadvantage. And then they're playing against a really good defensive team that actually really needs to win. So tough watch. A lot went wrong for me personally during this game. I got a terrible bloody nose. I was running around the halls trying to treat it. I accidentally booked a hotel for tonight in New York. I'm supposed to be there next week for the WNBA draft. So to me, as the game was going out of hand, my life was also kind of spiraling. So it felt very, very.
You didn't vomit on the baseline, did you?
I didn't, but my nose was gushing blood as that was happening. So I kind of felt for him. Because I was running back and forth next to the Celtics bench.
You should have rested tonight, Noah.
Yeah,
I know. And they were all kind of looking at me like there was just blood gushing down my face. So In any case, not to make the loss about myself, but it felt like it was all very aligned. It was just a mess here in Orlando. Everybody's tired. You guys played Joe's press conference, I assume?
No, you want to hear it?
Oh yeah, I mean it was a little cringe.
In a game like this where you're using a different
Let's
set
hear
of
it.
guys to start the game, obviously you're saying in the playoffs that it's not necessarily the stars that make the biggest impact, but the other guys that could step up. Is this kind of an opportunity to kind of set the table to set guys up to step up to support the stars in the playoffs?
I mean, we just have to be a team. And everybody's got a job to do on the team. We've got to make sure we execute that. So, yeah, that's the most important thing.
Coach, tonight, the tale of two teams, you guys have already taken care of business, and then you go into the playoffs. Orlando was kind of playing for something. Just talk a little bit about the game, what you saw out there, and what you think.
I think Orlando's a good team. I think they're well coached. I think they're physical. They play hard on both ends of the floor, and then they test you. And it's
always trying to make
team.
NBA.
And I saw our guys compete, to the best that they can. Working to execute, playing together, and just ran a gas. So Orlando played great, and I appreciate our guys and their mindset to compete and give us a chance.
76 points, obviously low for you guys. What do you think offensively was the biggest issue?
I mean, we got some good looks, didn't make them. I thought Orlando's defense was good. We had 16 turnovers, so they won the shot margin there. So it's got to be better there.
How different a role is that for Peyton, and how mentally?
I really don't want to rewatch this
challenge.
I mean, I don't think it's much of a
The
different
bad
role
part
for him.
hasn't
I
happened
think
yet?
it's
You asked for it.
much of a mental challenge. I think he was fine. He just ran a gas.
Joe, a lot of these guys are, looking to increase their roles on the Celtics, right? Like they're looking to build as individual players. How
What
much
is
does a
this
game like this
face?
where they get that extended run? Are you looking at seeing how they can improve individual skills that could translate to when the guys are healthy?
Zero.
Come on, Joe.
Body of work over the course of games, practices, workouts, film sessions. So there's not one thing they could do tonight that will impact what they've done over the course of the season.
Is there any difference for you, evaluating certain skills like that in a real-time setting versus in practice, or is it the same?
To me, it's all the same. I mean, but it all adds up. It's not just one thing. So it's a combination of all the things that go into getting ready to execute on both ends of the floor.
Was that part of your message before the game to guys like JD who don't usually get a lot of minutes here, to not put too much pressure on this game and this opportunity?
I would never tell someone not to put too much pressure. That's unrealistic when you're playing for the Celtics and you're trying to make it in the NBA. And so at the end of the day, it's just focused on execution and doing what you do and relying on the work that you have. But no, there's no such thing as too much or not enough pressure. It's life.
What do you think of Baylor's start tonight in his minutes?
He was good. Yeah, he gave us a shot. Played well.
So it's a matter of just guys not kind of knowing how to play with each other. You're throwing combinations out there of guys who are really unfamiliar, and maybe some of the turnovers and mistakes, just the little things that you see for lack of cohesion.
I mean, I appreciate everyone's creativity and the type of questions that they're asking. But
Oh,
we got to go
God.
at 4:30 in the morning. That was really fun what you guys did there. But
Well, the question I will
Last question.
is,
guys, what are we doing?
But
to answer
Dude.
your question, no, we've done that before. We played Luke and Mimi together in the Houston game. We've had plenty of opportunity to be able to do that, but this was good.
Is there a certain opportunity with the Magic having their full starters out there that you could observe and maybe kind of keep in your pocket for film later should you come across in the playoffs again?
I mean, not just, we've played them 3 times. We've played them, different ways over the course of the last couple of years. So, like I said, every team has a DNA. Every team, has things that they do. At the same time, every game takes on a life of its own, and every series takes on a life of its own. And so, when we find out who our opponent is, we'll be as prepared as we can, but we'll also be ready to adapt and adjust based on, how things go over the course of the series.
Thank you, Joe.
Thanks, Coach.
That was fun.
Oh my God.
What tweaked him there, Noah?
It wasn't Gary. Gary actually was he was starting to ask a question too, but it was just funny because he just at one point just was like, I'm not doing this anymore. It wasn't anything specific. I think it was the entire line of us trying to ask legitimate questions about a game that was kind of a tough game.
I mean, give
That's
me a
what I
break.
mean. He just wanted to be. He just wanted. He's
wanted to be
why
done
are
with
we?
it.
Like,
just like, why are we
what-
doing this?
it's a preseason game. Why are you asking me real questions
well,
like that
here's the
kind
thing,
of
though.
vibe?
So I actually I don't get offended by like that stuff really, and I wasn't offended by that either. But I will say I was a little bit surprised, and I was walking out, and I kind of asked Gary about it too, because I was like, that was kind of weird, because I feel like the whole message is that all of these games matter, right? And pregame he was saying we're going to put our guys to win, we're going to put our guys to try to win. Like, yeah, like we have enough, and so it's like we have to do our jobs, right? Like I'm here in Orlando, I have to ask questions to write.
I mean, give me a break. That we got here at 4 a.m.
Well, it was surprising because usually he doesn't like do the excuses or whatever. I don't know. I was just like the whole.
I never understand what he wants.
Threw me off. I was like, okay, let's talk to some players. Like, it was fine. Like, it's not a huge deal. I just thought it was worth watching.
If you spin it a positive way, it's it was actually pretty bad. And then if it's like, oh, this looked pretty bad, it was like, no, you don't realize that was great. It's always just spun in a different direction. And you're so right, Noah. It's win, 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 win. And now it's we got in at 4 a.m. What do you expect?
What's frustrating here is you guys are actually trying to ask normal, legitimate questions based off of a game that really didn't have much impact. But again, in just general questions that are totally harmless. It's not like after like a tough loss where he's being interrogated about coaching decisions or 3-point volume and he starts to get defensive because he's like, screw you. And your dumb questions, and I'm not giving you a soundbite. This was annoyed over nothing. So I mean, whatever. I don't care about. I don't care about that stuff in general. But look, if you're an asshole in that setting, you're just probably an asshole, and it is what it is. Like that's fine. Like you're either respectful of people doing their jobs or you're not. Some people are not. Coaches, I think, feel like they have a lot of leeway. But most people don't care because most people like the coaches better than they like the media, which is media should never complain about people being mean to them. And I learned that a long, long time ago, and that's why I don't do it. Nope, nobody's on your side, on our side.
I can't
Nobody's
believe
on the media side. Yeah,
I can't believe you brought. I mean, Noah and Jack schlepped down there to cover this game with Davison and Peterson playing, and they can't even get an answer on why they lost.
I thought his answers were fine, actually. Like I was working with what. Again, this is not. I didn't think this was a big deal. I just thought it was kind of fun. I assumed you guys had played it already. That's why I brought it up. I just thought it was like it kind of threw me off because Gary's question was normal, but it does kind of create those dynamics in times where it's like, is there a story for this game? Like, should I not even write a story for this game? Like, does it not even matter? You know? Like, that's kind of how I was thinking. But obviously, I find value in this stuff. And talking to Peyton Pritchard, he found a lot of value in this game, and he took some of the responsibility on his shoulders and thought he could have been a better leader and could have gotten the guys more organized and stuff. So, everybody has, it is a little sensitive. So I didn't feel like Joe was.
I laugh that shit off now. I used to get annoyed by it, especially, 25 years, 20 plus years of Belichick. It was like, oh my God, and it wasn't just Belichick being a jerk to people. It was that he told all of his players to never answer a question. So it was impossible to do your job. Impossible. You could ask like, what'd you have for breakfast? Well, I ate some things. There's some things I didn't eat. Probably could have had a better breakfast. I'm going to try to have a better breakfast tomorrow. That's always going to be the goal. He wouldn't just say cereal. Like he would just evade every friggin', no matter how innocuous. And then the players, same thing. Yeah, we just gotta try. We just gotta whatever. It's all about just cliche. And they were trained to do that. And that was 20 something years of it. So to me, Joe is just, this is light. This is,
I think the thing for me is that, like, as somebody who's a young reporter, like my second year covering an NBA team, like a lot of times I'm like, okay, how can I get better at asking questions that like get good answers? And I feel like
questions are fine.
With the players, though, I'm like, okay, this kind of guy responds well to these kinds of questions. Like he responds well. But with Joe, I feel like I'm just throwing things, and I'm like, maybe I'll get lucky. Maybe it's gonna bounce back.
Oh yeah.
Like I just don't know.
There's no consistency.
Yeah, I actually appreciated the answers that he gave. Like, I thought that it was like up until that moment, it was like a normal. It was normal, but I think he just was like,
but I think he finally.
I think he was like, I can't do more of these.
I think he just short circuited. He's like, I don't want to do. I want this press conference to be over now. Like, let's just.
And then it ended. PR was like, last question. So, again, it does kind of pose a funny dynamic because it's like we're all here like trying to take the game seriously, still the fans are trying to but this game was as unserious as
your lead of the story tonight should be, what are we doing here? It's very
I'll give it a shot.
Very apropos.
Yeah, actually, I think I will start my story with that moment in the press conference.
Yeah. We found ourselves asking the same question. What are we doing here? We're in Orlando to watch this. Like, what was the point? There might not be one, but anyway. So again, we hadn't played the Joe presser, but we were kind of asking your takeaways from this game, and I don't know if there were any that we left on the table or got into because we got sidetracked with the Joe stuff. Actually, you know what, Noah? Consolidate your thoughts quickly because I do have to tell people about Game Time first. Another one of our sponsors here at the Garden Report. And again, Game Time, you're going to need it. You want to get the Celtics games. It's going to be a tough ticket. And Game Time is the place for you, taking the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Great features, all-in pricing, so you know exactly what you're paying up front. No hidden fees at checkout. Panoramic views from your seat, spectacular. You know exactly what it's going to look like as well. Lowest price guarantee. Game Time has that too. They will credit you 110% the difference if you find a better price out there, and they have ticket coverage. Your ticket is covered, most flexible customer service policy in the entire ticketing industry. So get into the games now. Check it out. You're really going to want to have this for the playoffs. Download that app today. Create an account. Use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Once again, download the Game Time app. Code CLNS, $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Getting back to it, Noah, what were some lingering thoughts here?
I realized you consolidate your thoughts was one of the toughest directives I've ever received. I was like, where do I even start? It made me realize that I've never once planned what I was going to say.
I want an 800-word report.
I kind of spent the break just kind of self-reflecting on myself as a person. No, honestly, not a ton. I think I not really worth playing all the pressers, but we talked to Peyton Pritchard and Miyashiketa post-game. I asked Nini about just like how this year has been for him. He said, it's been a lot of up and downs. He's been trying to kind of figure out his spots and things. I thought he had good moments tonight. He had some tough moments. But again, I think the story here could have been like this guy really shown. I thought Baylor had some moments where he just looked a little bit more poised than some of the other guys. Like he could create his own offense a little bit better. So he stuck out to me. I was initially thinking about asking Joe, was there anybody that stuck out to you? But then I thought to myself, there's a 0% chance this is going to go well for you.
He's going to yell at me. Yeah.
Well, just like he's not going to say a name. So I used my prior experience covering Joe to not ask that question. But yeah, not a whole lot. Like, I think just this road trip, some people were invested in them breaking the road record, or tying the road record. They did not do that. Clearly that wasn't a priority because they didn't, they arrested everybody. But I think just nothing really that new from tonight, except for the fact that the guys that I was hoping might have a good game, like JD, obviously struggled, didn't do anything. Relax, John. It wasn't that bad.
What's going on?
That was a ridiculous face.
I just want to see something there that makes us feel good.
I know, like him hitting the rim, like on a shot.
Can I just say one thing on JD?
One play.
So first of all, let me actually give my JD take here, because I know I've written a lot about him. I've talked a lot about him. Number one, I don't necessarily think that he's like, my take is not like, oh, I think this guy's going to be whatever. Like I have no idea what he's going to be. I just want to be clear. Like there's some guys that have made some bold proclamations that will probably bite me one day, but this one, I really don't know. That being said, it's not logical that he looks the way he looks in the G League and he can't even hit the rim when he's wide open in the NBA, besides for the fact that there's some mental hurdle for him. And I'm not saying that that's, an excuse or that if, whatever, but there are lots of guys like Jamal Murray and Draymond Green who started their NBA careers missing their first 25 shots. And unfortunately, when you're a late second round pick that's mostly in the G League, you don't have the opportunity to iron it out over 2 weeks of bad play on the floor. And that's why I think we're seeing it in bits, but he's just not been able to find anything offensively on the floor in the NBA. And it's just night and day from the guy that he is in the G League. And it's weird because I watched Drew Peterson and Baylor Shyman and Jordan Walsh and Miyashiketa, and they look kind of similar to how they looked in the G League, like maybe a little bit better in the G League, but it's the same player. It's the same player, and you can see that they have some physical advantages in some places more than others, but this is like I genuinely don't feel like I'm watching the same guy. And I don't think that it's because he's incompetent in the NBA competition, especially on nights like tonight where it's like there were lots of opportunities for him. I think he has a mental hurdle, and the pressure is definitely, 3 years in the making. He gets a chance, and it's he needs to find a way to like work through it, is my opinion. And maybe it's not that, but that's my.
He needs a change of scenery.
Maybe.
Because he can't be. Well, I mean, go ahead, Sherrod.
No, he's not as bad as he looks. I firmly believe that. I mean, the difference between him and a lot of those other guys is that when they get a chance to get out there, you see glimpses of why they're in the NBA, and we don't see that from JD. Yeah, if you check out a game in Maine, you're like, oh, okay, I see why the Celtics have him around, because he can actually do some things. And those things have yet to translate at the NBA level. And I agree. I think there is some type of mental disconnect between the comfort and confidence level he has in Maine and playing in NBA games, even when he has an ample amount of playing time, which was the case tonight. There was no one behind him, so he had no reason to look over his shoulder.
Yeah. Still,
and these are the games. This game, of all the moments he has not looked great. This makes me most concerned because there really was no excuse for him to not at least show glimpses of why he's the G League MVP.
Yeah, and that's usually how it goes, unfortunately. Like 3 years in this G League system, and then it benefits someone else potentially. Like it just doesn't. It's not like baseball where it just goes straight up the system, John. It's usually just you're somewhere playing, and then you go somewhere else and play at the NBA level, as you see with Norris here, who was in 2 other G Leagues. So I want him to rise up to Boston just because he's been here and we've known him and talked to him and seen him play and seen him develop. And you want this to be a linear progression up through Maine to Boston. But that's just not how it goes more often than not. And I think you guys are right. It probably is going to take a change of scenery for him to get into a role. Because I'll say this too, Noah, he doesn't really fit the way they play. Like him spacing out, him catching, shooting threes. Like that's not his game.
And that's what I was going to say. Like, what did he do tonight? He missed 5 threes. It's not like he was a great 3-point shooter in the G League. He showed well in the playoffs, but he's 33% this season. He was like 28% last season. He's at his best when the ball's in his hands and he's running the show. And that's why it's a tough transition. That's why he's such a different player as far as like Drew Peterson, Jordan Walsh. They're doing the same thing. And he's not. He's not going to do that for the Celtics anytime soon.
But in a game like he's not, when in a call up, he never will. And when he's playing, it's always garbage time minutes and nothing matters there. It's like that, those last 5 minutes, that looks like Vegas League. It's just whoever has the ball shoots it. It's like summer league, stuff. It's ridiculous. But in a game like this, where he does get first quarter run, he's going to get some minutes. And again, it was only 16 minutes. It wasn't that many. One of my early laments on the show is too much Pritchard in this game. Just start JD and let him run just let him be JD for a night.
You really weren't feeling Pritchard tonight.
Like I said, I think he does this even in games where they empty the bench and you leave Pritchard out there and he's dribbling the ball, 800 times per possession and shooting all the time. Let the other guys work in a little bit. Like I know what Peyton Pritchard can do. I
felt that way about Shireman tonight. I feel like Shireman needed way more responsibility.
I would have given Shireman more looks too, but I would have let JD just start, play 30 minutes, run the offense, and let him try to be a version of JD. However, when he's out there, there's no reason tonight where he couldn't have done that. I find him to be so tentative with the ball in his hands. You see him running the point, and he gives up possession before he even gets to the 3-point line. He doesn't want to, attack or engage. He gets rid of it and then he takes off. And that's what I don't get is I would want him to be a little bit more creative and assertive in an environment like this, which I don't understand. I don't know if he's not comfortable in his handles or what it is. I've made this comparison before. Early in his career, Avery Bradley used to do the same thing. He was not comfortable with his handle, and he'd sometimes have to play point because that's just he was the only guy on the floor who could, and he would cross half court, get rid of the ball, and then go stand in the corner, and that's all he would do. And his game developed as time went on. He learned how to be more effective, but he wasn't comfortable with people harassing him and trying to. Is JD intimidated by because that isn't how he plays in Maine.
Right. And that's the thing. And it's like, maybe there's a bigger gap. Maybe I'm underestimating the talent gap between NBA guards and G League guards and the defensive pressure too. It's just, it's just weird because when I honestly like Drew Peterson's a guy. He doesn't stand out to me a bunch in Maine, but when he comes here, I'm like, okay, he has some flashes of game. Like he has some moments. I like this comment. Someone here said Etwan Moore. I was kind of thinking that too. Like, a guy that looked like really there was nothing there. And he might just need to get out of the system and go somewhere where he can mess up a bunch of times and get a couple more opportunities. I don't know. But it's just wild because he's so talented and he's so effective in a league where a lot of other guys have been able to transfer some success.
I'm gonna have to push back on the Etwan Moore comparison.
That's Sherrod's guy.
Well, this is the thing about Etwan. When he played, whether it was G League, D League, NBA, there would be glimpses of why he belonged. When Avery Bradley was giving the ball up at half court, he would lock kids up at the other end of the floor to show that he belonged. And that's what I'm missing from JD. I'm not seeing that skill
His
set,
NBA skill.
That one NBA skill that he has that shows he belongs here. And to me, the issue isn't whether it's inside of him. For whatever reason, it's just not being unlocked, even when he gets opportunities to showcase like tonight.
It's such a bummer, but I think the big issue, and there's a lot of issues, but the biggest issue by far might just be that his role doesn't exist in the league anymore. Like 5, 6 guys, maybe. Like that pass first, not scoring threat, dish the ball over, initiate everything, dominate the ball while doing it despite not taking a ton of shots. Like that doesn't really exist anymore. And it's tough because those guys are fun to watch. There's been a lot of great players in that mold throughout the history of the game. And you need to be a threat at the point of it. That's why Tatum plays point guard for them, because he's just such a threat at the point of attack.
Facts, my dog.
Facts, dog. A couple of super chats we wanted to get in here. Someone really wanted to know what was going on with Yamandar and then asked a couple times and then decided to pay for it to get the question answered. I believe he's playing professionally in Israel right now. And you'll never hear from him again, at least in NBA circles. That never flashed, but that's it is what it is. Not all these. Some of these guys get drafted, get sent overseas, and never come back. That was the case. The curious case of Yamandar.
I like Juwan Begarin.
Someone asked here. This is the same question twice, and he paid twice for it, and I feel bad for it. Thank you, Eric. Do you think we win with Tatum and KP being our 1 and 2 options, followed by White and Holiday being 3 and 4? And then hope you discuss it this time. I'm so sorry, Eric. I was going to get to it, but we had gone off in tangents and I was going to circle back. I didn't mean for you to have to double up for it, but we do appreciate the super chat. So we will spend a fair amount of time on this question. Look, I don't know how to talk about this without talking about Jaylen Brown. So I don't know, but look, this is the comparison. This is what I'm getting from a lot of people when I take to Twitter and people are yelling at me because of my Jaylen slander or whatever the have it. It is what it is. Like, he's limited. You're going to get less of him. How much less of him, I have no idea. But it's very much, I think, the parallel that people are drawing is the same thing that you had last year, which is you had no KP or a limited KP when you did have him. And so did you have enough everywhere else? And people are kind of hoping it's the reverse this year. Okay, you're going to get a little less of Jaylen, but boy, does KP look really friggin' good right now. And he's healthy and everybody else looks good as they've looked. So between Tatum playing some of the all-around best ball of his career, Porzingis looking as good as he's looked here, and getting good contributions from White. Holiday has definitely picked it up after some people were concerned about him, and the shot looks better and he looks more spry. Better Cornette, better Pritchard. Hauser, the back isn't barking, so you're hoping to get decent contributions out of him as well. Horford looks as good as he's looked. Do all of those things offset or reduce Jaylen and give you a chance? Maybe. But yeah, it is going to be interesting. Not only him not being a number 2 or a number 3 option here, what you do with him at all in the half court set and how his role evolves if he is not going to be physically the type of player that he is. So I'll, put it to you guys. Can they survive with Jaylen less and with these guys carrying more of the offensive load?
They can, but it's not going to be easy. And Jaylen, to some extent, is going to have to change his game up a little bit. I think Jaylen's going to have to play a little bit more bully ball. His ability to get out in transition, finish at the rim. If he's physically unable to shift the way he's accustomed to, he's not going to be as impactful playing the way he has played previously. So he's going to have to play a little bit more Paul Pierce-like. Where when you get in those half-court sets, you're running your offense. He gets to that elbow or he gets on a block and goes to work. Forcing the defense to hopefully adjust to him being a little bit more of a on-the-block, low-post scoring threat, because the transition game isn't going to be there. And for the Celtics, that means Tatum, that means Payton, that means Sam Hauser, that means, all the snipers that they have on his roster are going to have to fill that void of being able to score in transition, not finishing at the rim per se like Jaylen does, but certainly get out in transition, get to your spots, and force the defense to scramble a little bit to, frankly, contest a multitude of three-point shooters. But my biggest concern with Jaylen is on the defensive end of the floor. That's, to me, where him not being whole is most problematic. Because even if you try to hide him a little bit, which the Celtics may look to do that I just don't think that's going to work. I think Jaylen, just by nature, is going to wind up more times than not on one of the better offensive players.
Noah brought that up too, a couple of shows ago in round one of talking Jaylen. But my question is, does this change? Do you have to change how you use him? Like, do you go out and say, Jaylen, be you, but just less of you? Or do you completely change how you use him? And that includes his defensive assignment. Instead of guarding the other team's alpha, maybe that has to be Holiday now. And Jaylen has to play a big or something else. Do you set him down in the post a little bit more? Does he take on a different role if he's not able to do the things that he's accustomed to doing, Noah? Like, would you like to see that? I don't know what they're going to do, but I definitely don't want him to just be like, let me see if I can take this guy off the dribble. Nope, I can't. Yeah. Like you saw against the Knicks. Like, oh no, I guess I can't. I'm not fast enough right now. Like, I don't want to see that. I want to see him use other skills. So
here's my take on Jaylen in the postseason. I think they're better off without him than with the version of him that we've seen in a lot of these games. And I would feel very comfortable with their ability to repeat without him altogether. And that's not a slight at him. I think everybody
the whole way.
Yes. And I felt the same way last
against Oklahoma.
in this economy?
What? Yeah. So here's my thing. I think the Celtics have such a...
You think they'd beat Oklahoma, Noah, without Jaylen?
He's incredible.
He's doubling down, John. He's doubling down.
I'm just shocked.
Okay, let me finish my thought. So I think the reality with the situation with Jaylen and just the amount of talent that's on this roster is that you lose a guy and chances are there's somebody else that can slot in and fill those minutes and play that role. And even if you're going to lose out a lot of things, you're going to lose out on his physicality and his shot making. But I'm just thinking about last year's championship and how many guys did not play to their best. I think Tatum played 50% of the playoff run that we could see from him in the next couple of years. Like, I think that he just scratched the surface of what he's capable of in the playoff run. And I expect and I think that he's going to have a great playoff run this year when he's going to be a lot more effective shooting wise. He's going to take on a bigger role. Like, that's kind of my thinking when I think about Jaylen's role. And that's not diminishing. I think everybody here knows that I think very highly of Jaylen as a player and how much he's been able to impact the team and how much he could. My biggest concern is when players are compromised, and I always go back to Jason Tatum in Game 7 in the Eastern Conference Finals. And I wasn't covering the team at the time, but I remember thinking, like, it would just be better if he wasn't on the floor right now because he is such a liability. But obviously, you're not going to take him out because he's able to.
Because he's trying to still be Jason Tatum. He's just not.
And
so you just have an imposter taking Jason Tatum shots and trying to do Jason Tatum things who can't. That's exactly I agree with you 100%.
That's my biggest concern. That being said, maybe this is delusional. Maybe this is like my overly optimistic self when it comes to this team. But I have to imagine that if Jaylen's planning on playing in this playoff run, he's capable of not looking like how he looked yesterday, whether that's a mental disengagement, whether it's the treatment that he's planning on having, whether it's the 10 days off before the playoffs actually starts. Like, that's what I'm picturing. That's not what he's going to look like. Because if he looks like how he looked in some of these games, it is going to be really, really hard for him to be helpful. So that's the big question mark. Like, is he going to look better than what he's looked?
Yep.
If not, I think they have enough. And maybe that's crazy, but I also said it last year, and people thought it was a little crazy to say that they didn't need Porzingis because he was the big change. He was why they were going to be title contenders all of a sudden. And he did help. I don't want to discredit what he did in the finals because he was a part of things. But I think ultimately you saw other guys step up, and I just think. And again, I saw somebody saying something about Pritchard going to be a 0. Yeah, Pritchard's a 0, then they're screwed. They can't have Pritchard be a 0. So there's just a smaller margin of error, but I think they have enough.
And that's that's why my concern level is ticking up, John, because I don't think that's realistic. And we've kicked it around. Would you sit him out? Or I even think of a situation where he's not looking right in a game, and you have to get him out of there like you did in that next game if that's what happened there. And I need to see that before I believe that they're going to do that. I get what you're saying, Noah, that without him being limited out there and other guys being put in that position to succeed, we did see that to some degree last year with the Porzingis situation. But I just think he does things that no one else on the roster can do. And, we've talked about how, like, if going down, you might see Shireman at that point. And, a guy of that caliber going down. Horford's probably starting at that point. And then you have to play Cornette significant minutes behind that. I think the domino effect of losing Jaylen, not first round or second round, when you get into the Clevelands, when you get into the Oklahoma Cities, you'll miss that dynamic immensely, I think. And that's not because of the Celtics' depth. That's not because of, whatever Brown can't do in those situations. It, to me, is the competition, John. There's a smaller room for error this year. You're not seeing, I don't know, who'd they play round one last year? Miami or Indiana in the East Finals or Dallas in the NBA Finals. I haven't looked recently. Oklahoma is still that championship favorite, right? At this point, or it's neck and neck there.
They are, and the Celtics are too. Yep.
And so it's not realistic for me to think that if Brown did, and again, I think we're talking about two different things here. I think Noah's saying that if he's limited, you're better off with him not being out there struggling through it, which I agree with. But I don't agree that they can win the championship without him. Do you?
Yeah, so I don't agree that they can win the championship without him against a team like Oklahoma City. But there are matchups out west.
I don't think they'd get by Cleveland without him.
I think they might. I think there's matchups out west that they could get by him. But I do agree, and I've said this before. I do agree that there's a percentage. I don't know what it is. It's silly to try to guess. Is he at 70%, 80%, 50%? But I think there's a certain point where you just go off a cliff and no Jaylen is better than the limited Jaylen. I just don't know where that is. Certainly, if it's the Jaylen we saw yesterday or we've seen recently, just the way he's moving, and I hope he's holding some back or there's some sort of treatment that's going to be more like this will help deal with the pain, a blocker, who the hell knows what. I don't want to pretend I know. If he can't improve, I think they're better not having him at all, and find a way to have different rotations and different things to work, because it's just going to be, like I said, a version of Jaylen that's just not Jaylen. So it's not, but I don't know if it's enough to win, because the competition, they have less margin for error this year than they had last year. And
I will say this,
but the league wasn't as good last year. The top teams weren't as good last year. And also there was a ton of injuries. So even though they lost KP, they were still a 3 lengths better than the next closest team in the league. It's different this year. So yes, Cleveland's going to be absolutely challenging, but I do think you could get by 2 rounds without Jaylen Brown.
Yeah.
And
I'm there with you.
That's why I say I would have, benefit of hindsight. I think the smart thing to do would have been to have pulled the plug on Jaylen a month ago and then reassessed and then kept kicking the can down the road as far as you thought you could through round 1, possibly round 2. Shit, man. I mean, playing the Knicks without him wouldn't be great, but like ultimately you're trying. Who cares if you get to round 2 or 3? You're trying to get a healthy Jaylen for the rounds that matter to win another championship. If he's not going to be right and you're not going to be able to win with him, or he's going to drag you down or be a liability, what's the point at all? So yeah, I don't know. You got to see, you need more. You got to see more than you've seen recently. Otherwise, I am a little nervous with him out there at all at this level. Cause it's kind of ugly.
I think what we've seen from Tatum this year, Sherrod, at least gives you hope that they could compete all the way through. Like they wouldn't be inept without Brown. They wouldn't be incapable of competing, incapable of winning, because Tatum's driven lineups without Brown that have won their minutes by 11 points per 100 this year. So we've seen Tatum win with a variety of lineups, and you do have that Horford 6 starter effectively that can slide in there if Brown did miss time. So it's a different dynamic. It'd probably be a different way they would need to win at that point. I wouldn't totally rule it out, but I think we get caught up a little bit sometimes in the games where Jaylen's out against Utah and Phoenix and whoever during the flow of the year where they look great, and not against a top caliber opponent that's keying in on Tatum at that point and taking him out and making Horford and Holiday beat them. I think you're in a much tougher spot in a playoff series without Brown. And
You are, but
it's
it's not Brown. It's this Brown. Like there's no question. Like,
so you're just comparing it to the diminished version.
I'm saying yes. I'm saying not having a healthy Brown and having no Brown. Both scenarios are going to be challenging, but there is a point I agree with what Noah had said. I don't know that they can win, but I do know that they might be better off without this hobbled version of him, unless there's another gear or another level that he can get to.
It's going to be so interesting.
Yeah,
we have no idea.
Bring Noah back. Yep. So Noah, we just kind of went through it. Bobby's dubious that they can win it, but I think we're kind of in the same boat here. You got to see how much more you have than him. Right. If we put a percentage on what Brown was in New York, let's call him 50% of what he normally is. That's not good enough. If he's at 70 or 80%, maybe, yeah. But I don't know. I don't know how he gets there. We'll see.
Yeah, I was listening.
Yeah, it's a challenge.
It's that. So you're saying, Noah, if it's 50% Brown or no Brown, you'd lean no Brown?
I mean, it just depends what 50% Brown looks like. Is it Brown that
like
can't
last night?
But again, I don't know how much of last night was like a lack of engagement in a way, like not wanting to necessarily push through the pain and that sort of thing. Like if last night was a playoff game, I would probably say better no Brown. But
okay, I get what you're saying now.
But this, like, if that was his best effort and like that with all the treatments and with you put it all out there and that's the best he can give you, like maybe you're better off with somebody else. I don't know. Like, I think right now we don't really know how he's going to feel. The playoffs are still 10 days away from starting, and whatever medical treatment that he thinks he might be having, that could help. Maybe it won't help. Like, that's the big thing for me is just we're seeing bits and pieces. He's gathering information. That's the way he's framed it. Someone here asked how he looked at shoot around. Like, he was just doing normal shooting things. Like, he doesn't look compromised at shoot around. He doesn't, it's not like, obviously he's playing basketball, so he's fine. Like, he's able to play in the NBA game ultimately. But yeah, I think that's my philosophy though in general. Like, I think I would almost always, if there was a star player that's at 50%, like generally speaking, if you have faith in your role players, like that's the big thing. Like, do you have faith that Derek White is more effective taking an additional 5 shots a game and Drew Holiday being more involved offensively? Like, I just have so much faith in the other guys on this team that and this is not a Jaylen Brown thing. I would say the same thing about Drew Holiday or Derek White or Kristaps Porzingis or Al Horford. Or you know what, for that matter, Jason Tatum too, in a sense. It's like I brought up like the game 7. Like, I just compromise players. It's hard, and whether it's you're being less explosive is one thing, but being a defensive liability and being able to that's the big question.
Yeah, to that point, I also want to point out that I'd be saying the same exact stuff about any single Celtics player right now trying to reach 65 games with an injury to make awards. It's not a Jaylen Brown agenda. It's like you're trying to win
just a coincidence.
you're trying to win a friggin' championship, guys. Like that's really all that matters. So play, don't play, do whatever. Ultimately, you're looking for it. It's the same rationale with everybody who said put Kristaps Porzingis in bubble wrap last year just to be ready for the playoffs. Like nobody gives a crap about anything other than having the players as close to fully healthy as possible entering the playoffs. It's what you're literally wishing for on day one in the season. Nothing matters as long as they enter the playoffs healthy. And if they do, they'll probably win the championship or at least get to it. That's the whole story here. And, again, it doesn't always work that way. So they have to figure out a way to overcome. It's going to continue to be the story. I'm sorry for the people who are tired of hearing about it, but how Jaylen looks, how he's playing, how he looks in game one, how he looks in round one. Should he be playing? Shouldn't he be playing? That's not going anywhere.
We're going to be on Jaylen watch all of next week.
It's impossible. It's impossible not to talk about it because it's the one
Rich
thing.
is going to be stationed at practice, just every step Brown takes.
Well, that would help though, because he's able to. It's not like we're trying to see if he has a limp. Like that's the tough thing here is he's been playing. He's only missed 10 games for this injury all year. 8 since the All-Star break. Like he's generally been playing, and so it's just trying to discern what's a lack of engagement, what he literally just can't because he's in so much pain. Which nights he looks worse than others. Gary asked him pregame, like, did you feel like last night Jaylen things were different? And he was like, no, like he didn't. Joe wasn't gonna say that there was something that was different about yesterday. So I don't know. I'm looking forward to seeing if this medical treatment helps. Maybe that's overly optimistic, but I think those things like whatever, a cortisone shot, a million other things that I won't even try to say. Like I think there are solutions out there that they might be hopeful for too. So
get one. It'd be great. Like I said, the best thing in the world would be like, oh, Jaylen Brown looks normal, and then we don't have to talk about it anymore. And then you just play, and then the results are that. But if he looks off, you're going to constantly be wondering. And again, the worst part about it, Noah, is the one-on, one-off factor of it. Like, oh, was it really hurting today so he couldn't be effective at all? Like, is one game you're going to look at Jaylen and be like, he was all right, he was moving well. And then the next one, he's like, oh, God. So not knowing what you're going to get is also going to be really...
The minutes restriction thing, too, is that going to be a thing? Like, going from 20 where he is now to 40 is a big difference.
This is one area where I'm losing my mind. If you're entering the playoffs on a minute restriction, you shouldn't have been playing minutes now. Like that's the one area I'm in. Like that's crazy to me. Like that if missing a game or missing time here, like that doesn't make sense. So no, I mean, if he plays, he's got to just play, right? Like you're going to enter the playoffs with a key player on a minutes restriction. That's insane.
It's a good point. Yeah, you got to be go or you got to sit. There can't
go or
be
don't
a 20
go, right.
minute in and out sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. Anyway, that's it. We've done way more than anyone could have possibly imagined we could do on this game tonight. Everyone thought we were going to be cowards.
Creative, like Joe said.
Yeah. We are creative. People thought there was going to be no Zannis tonight. There was. People thought Noah might hide after the JD
debacle.
Goose egg and a couple of bloody noses. No, she's here.
Yeah, I just got up another bloody nose and I almost just kept letting it go for the show, just for the entertainment value. But I decided that the grossness of it wasn't going to outweigh the entertainment value, so I did go off camera.
Don't do that again.
That might have lost us.
Embrace the grossness. Embrace the grossness.
I thought, just to kind of keep the show a little more interesting, but
what would have been great is if you didn't even budge, just it gushing.
That's what I was going to do because I could feel it, and I was like, I could just do that, and I've done it before, just as a haha. But
that's TV magic.
I decided to take the show seriously.
Yeah. I don't wear costumes on Halloween. I just let actual blood drip out of my nose. Exactly. That's it. So anyway, thank you guys honestly, thank you to the friggin' viewers and the chat and the people out there for watching this show. I would not have. So you guys are really
I would
something.
not recommend this show.
We do appreciate it. I wouldn't watch the next two either, but we're going to do them regardless. We got 2 more games, home games. Then it's a little bit of a break. We'll have some fun during the play-in time. We'll do a couple of creative shows. We're going to do an all apologies show. A Kurt Cobain, all apologies, where everyone is going to apologize for something. That's coming up.
I'm skeptical that you're going to
Noah, consolidate your apologies. Consolidate them.
I already have mine.
So we will do that.
One apology for me.
We'll do playoff previews. We'll do this show sucks. Yeah. So we'll have some fun. Yeah, I'll go first. I promise. So again, thank you guys. Thank you guys for hanging out. Friday. Is it Friday, Sunday?
Yep.
Friday, Sunday versus Charlotte. We are on Jaylen watch, possibly only for one more game. He doesn't play, it's over. We don't have to talk about it anymore. He does. Oh boy, you don't want to be hanging around with me. I'll tell you that.
I'm with Noah. I think we got to do this a couple more times here this weekend.
Oh my God. I called it. I'm switching. I'm switching my take. He's done. It might be wishful thinking, but I'm tired of talking about it.
You've been dying to hope that this isn't a thing.
I've tried to wish it away so many times. I don't know why I'm getting so much heat. At first, I tried really hard to believe it wasn't the 65. Then the evidence was overwhelming. And then he sat tonight, and I thought, okay, maybe, better judgment prevailed. If he's back out there on Friday, we're gonna have some problems. But anyway, doesn't matter. We will see you on Friday regardless. Bobby, Noah will be at the Garden covering the game. Jimmy Toscano will be back. Sherrod as well. We look forward to it. Celtics, Charlotte, 2 more games to go, wrapping up the regular season, and then it is the playoffs. We're looking forward to that. We will see you all on Friday. Take care, everybody. No one's sneaking a vegan brownie by me. I'll tell you that.
Okay, you know what, John? We're gonna do it.
You have to feel that way too, Bobby.
I have to feel that way. Let's
Yeah.
fight out over and make Luke your first center.
Bobby, we gave you Luke an hour early. We're not going to end this on a damn conversation about Luke